I think we need to remain open-minded for what's to come, and I think this is just the start. I've been trying to think ways of how to start this video, but I think this is the most significant milestone we've had, I think, since the egg videos from Jake Barber. So Eric Davis has spoken to a congressional panel, which includes, but is not limited to, Eric Burleson, who's obviously now working very closely with David Grush and trying to get his SCI clearance back, and also Paulina Luna, who's running the Task Force for Transparency that's looking into the UAP issue. And the things that he's saying are just so profound. Sometimes in this instance, I think I have to pinch myself, because I'm actually, I say this a lot, but I'm actually genuinely struggling with this one, because the way he speaks about it so candidly, and I'll go into detail in a minute about what he's talking about and how this stuff works and where and how they've been hiding all the money to fund these programs, which is very interesting, by the way. But the way in which he presents the information, it's almost like it's common knowledge, and it's really hard to grasp that, because the more sedated someone might be when they're talking about these things, usually the more I'm intrigued by it, because they're talking about it in such general terms. But anyway, let me just give you an outline here of who Eric Davis is. So Eric W. Davis is a respected astrophysicist and defense contractor. He worked with the Pentagon's secretive Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, which is also known as ORSAP, and later supported ATIP, which is the UFO task force. So for decades, he has briefed high-level officials on crash retrievals, reverse engineering, and UAP intelligence. So here's the part one. Effectively, how they've been hiding this. And this also kind of makes sense when you think about the Pentagon failing their audits every single year. They fail them every year. $500 billion here, $600 billion there. Like, they never pass an audit. Here's the first bit. It's going to be, I'll break this down. So these programs have been hidden from Congress since 1944. So obviously I'll just tie in here. He talks a little bit about Magenta, Italy, and that Bell-type craft that crashed in Magenta, Italy in 1933 under Mussolini. And
without which that's been involved, I would say since the beginning in 1944 with the first recovery of Italy, of the U.S. Army's recovery of a craft that crashed in Italy back in 1933. The United States Army invaded Italy and pushed the dude right out. They were able to recover that crash and bring it back to right here instead of.
Now they're saying, Eric Davis says that there was an intervention from the American military, and they went in there to invade that area to retrieve that craft and then take it back to a secure location stateside. Now, whether that's Wright Pat or Area 51, I don't know, and that's allegedly, but he's saying that in this, which I find very interesting. So moving on to the next part, which we kind of knew. Eisenhower authorized this. We know that Eisenhower was the beginning of all of this top secret stuff.
This is one of the most well-hidden programs. It is hidden from congressional oversight, and always has been. And it was hidden by the action of President Eisenhower, who instituted presidential emergency action directives during his administration. These directives were not shared with Congress. They were classified. And when the Freedom of Information Act was instituted in the 70s, those are not subjected to the Freedom of Information Act request. These directives provide cover for actions that are associated with the retrieval of these vehicles.
And he used something called the Presidential Emergency Action Directives, PEADs, not subject to FOIA or congressional review. In other words, there's no congressional oversight. So they knew what they were doing from the very beginning. Slide 3. So they use shell companies and defense firms. So the DoD creates a fake company, okay, and then sends the money via sole source contracts. Okay, firms label it internal R&D, which requires, you guessed it, no congressional oversight.
What happens is the Department of Defense offices, CIA offices, they create shell companies. They give a sole source contract to a shell company who passes the money to a selected group of defense industry firms. And those firms who take that contract money and turn it around and use that as control funds, called internal research and development funds, which they give to their own people inside their computer own employees to do the reverse engineering and analysis and study of these recovered materials.
That's how they're circumnavigating the system. That's what David Grush was alluding to on the 23rd of July 2023. 26th of July 2023. And he even gave the name of some of the funds where all of these misappropriated funds, where all of these programs are being funded. What they also do is they have rotating code names. So every 3 to 5 years, they completely change the name of the business and the company. So they've shuffled across different agencies. So it could be, one time it could be the CIA, then it's shuffled over to the FBI. So they're so difficult to find and trace. So these guys have this down. This is a very clever system what they're using here, but they are circumnavigating the federal law and congressional oversight by doing all these things, which is why they're so hard to find. And then here we are. So in stage 5, there's only one 4-star general and one 3-star admiral that ever got in. They used super user SAP clearance. Everyone else was blocked as a result.
And as far as I know, only one 4-star general and one 3-star admiral were able to locate these programs. And that's about as much as I can say. They located the programs and they uncovered them. One got a lot of resistance and hostile reception and was told that he found who he was looking for. They were who they were suspecting being, yes, they were a UFO, UAP, flat crash agreement in reducing area.
That's how they're doing it. That's how they're running these programs in secret. This is how they're doing it. So now we know, which I think that Paulina Luna's team, Eric Burleson and all the other guys involved in trying to get transparency here, I think they have a better grip and understanding on who to speak to and where to go to ask the right questions. Because remember, in order for them to move forwards, they must know who to ask the questions to, what to ask, and where. So they've really got to know what they're doing. So I think that we're getting some. This is substantial. This next bit is just. This is where it gets crazy. So we are dealing with. Now, I don't know if we're interacting or in communication with, but as what Eric Davis has said, we are dealing with 4 different types of species.
Are they multiple species?
They're typically the multiple species people are familiar with, the Greys, the Nordics. People are talking about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian insectoid, it's that they resemble.
Yeah, you heard that right. And I'm not talking about animals. Okay, so the first one is the Greys. Not surprised, but it is what it is. Short humanoid involved in the 1947 Corona crash, Roswell. Now, apparently, according to Lou Elizondo, there were 2 craft that crashed that day. One was not intact, one was. The one that was brought into a 51 for, reverse engineering and stuff like that. But there were 2 craft that crashed in the same location. Now, what I believe, according to Lou Elizondo, is that the second craft was there to save the others, which unfortunately perished in the crash. So, yeah. What? Like, this is... I can't even believe I'm reading this. Part 2. The Nordics. Those are the dudes, those are the Scandinavian dudes. The Scandinavian ones with the white hair, beautiful features and, just very white skin. So they look like us. They could literally blend in with us. They look like us. They're 5'6" to 6 foot tall, plus some of them are very big, and appear Scandinavian or angelic in nature. This is just wild. I mean, obviously we saw that thing from, what was it from? I think it was from the UN. Remember that UN interview with apparently that Nordic that was being interviewed? I don't know if the legitimacy of that, I don't know if it's real. But yeah, I think, we need some context with this. Bearing in mind, he's saying this to a congressional panel, by the way. This isn't like, he's saying this to people in government right now, that this is what we're dealing with. Now, this one I'm not so happy about. Reptilians. Now, they don't have the best reputation, and apparently they allegedly run the show, so to speak. Now, I can't prove that, and you know me, I don't like talking about stuff that I can't substantiate. But if this is coming from someone as high-ranking as Mr. Davis here, I think we better pay attention. So they're humanoid with reptile-like features. They're not reptiles, but they're just perceived that way by, people, I guess, within the intelligence community that have interacted with these things. I don't know. And number 9, insectoid types. So, like manta ray, that kind of thing. So they, humanoid, but bug-like faces or eyes, also human-sized. A human-sized bug? Yeah, okay. Look, I get how this sounds, I understand that, but I have a moral obligation to report on everything that's being said by credible people, okay? This guy has a very clean track record. Now, I'm not playing this game of he said, she said, who said, why, who, what, where. All that matters now is that this man, first of all, must be protected. Second of all, he must go to a public hearing and testify what he said in this closed panel. That is essential. There is nothing else to discuss. If this man knows this and he was working with within the intelligence community on these special access programs, and he's just come out and said that we're dealing with 4 species. I don't think I need to play this up anymore. I think we understand the significance of this, and we really, really need to get some light on this. I don't like talking about these things because I can't prove it, but it's his position that I'm leaning on here. It's his position and his credibility and the prerequisites that these people have to go through to be in those positions is what I'm holding on to. I don't care about him as a person. I care about what he's saying and his credibility as a professional in the industry that he works in. Eric Davis has briefed Congress. He claims these crash retrievals and species are real, and reverse engineering programs have been operating in secret for 80 years. Not the first person to say that. If true, it changes everything. I think the time that we're living in right now, guys, is just. I think we need to have a very open mind. Okay, I think we need to be, because even this scares me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you, because this is crazy. This is nuts. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're hostile, but if they're coming here, we're at an immediate disadvantage. Now, I know I'm thinking from a defense perspective, but we are humans, and it's kind of within our nature to do so. But I just think that we need to be very, very careful how we move forward with stuff like this. As you can see, I'm not laughing about this. I'm taking this quite seriously, because I don't think this man is lying. I think he's telling the truth. And I think we all need to be humble. I think we need to remain open-minded for what's to come. And I think this is just the start. So, yeah, that's it for now, guys. You heard it first from DK, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Thank you.